In today's episode, Tara asks, with the confirmation of BERT's role in search ranking as Google DeepRank, could you explain more what this means for SEO? So it's a good question. This comes from a revelation on Search Engine Roundtable that the BERT model is being used as part of what Google's called DeepRank. They're part of their ranking algorithm. And to understand this, we have to understand what the BERT model does and what it's good at. BERT's a piece of software, right? It's no different in some ways than, say, Microsoft Word. And so it's less about the technology being used, and more about how it's being used. You could write a book with Microsoft Word, or you could write a shopping list. There's just so many different applications of it. The same is true for the AI model. So in order to understand this from an SEO perspective, we need to understand a few things: what it's good at, what those capabilities offer for search and ranking, and then what we should be doing about it. So BERT's great at really about 4 or 5 big things. One, classification of text, being able to say, this text is good, this text is bad. It's good at named entity recognition, being able to say, like, okay, this is a person, this is a place, this is a thing, understanding context. It is good at question answering, being able to give a reasonable answer based on data it's extracted from text. It's good at extracting pieces of text out from a larger passage and understanding the importance of any given sentence or paragraph. And all that comes from its ability to look at a block of text as a whole, not just look at, say, the next word in the sentence. That's what makes it such a different model from other older natural language processing models. So based on those capabilities, what's the impact on search? Well, first, classification of text, is this good or bad, is pretty straightforward. As Google gets more and more training data from its search quality rating guidelines, as Google gets more user data from how people use Google, BERT gets better and better at classifying text. This is a high ranking page, this is a medium ranking page, this is a low ranking page, and so on and so forth. When you think about concepts like expertise, authority, and trust, which is a core part of the search quality rating guidelines, those are things that are not explicit in text, but human users rate pages, sample pages, and then a deep learning model like BERT goes through and says, okay, all the high-ranking pages, what do they all have in common? How do they use prepositions? How do they use named entities? Do named entities show up? And what's their relationship to the text? And all this happens in the software. It's not influenced by humans that we know of. And I should caution, this is speculation, because nobody that I know of has an inside line to Google to ask them exactly how they're training their model. And if they did, they wouldn't tell us. But this is based on the understanding of the model. So the search quality rating guidelines essentially is providing a training data set for Google to say, okay, what do pages that are rated favorably have in common? What are pages that don't? And relying on things like those named entity recognition capabilities and snippets of text to understand the context of a page. All of that is fed into BERT, and then live pages on the web are fed into it, and it classifies them, right? It says this is what it should be ranked as. Now, again, BERT is a really big computationally intensive model, and we know it is not the core part of Google search algorithm. It is part of it, just like Core Web Vitals are part of it, just like the knowledge graph is part of it. And we don't know the percentages, but we do know that it's in there at least somewhat. So with all this technical information, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, a few things. One, everyone should be reading the search quality rating guidelines and understanding the training data set that's being fed to BERT, because that's critical for understanding how Google wants its engine to be trained. These human raters are going in and rating pages and saying, this looks good, this looks bad, thumbs up, thumbs down, high, medium, low in their rating guidelines. That gives us the information we need to know for understanding what the model is likely to see on a page. Now, is it for sure? No. Part of deep learning is that deep learning can engineer features that are not there or not explicitly declared. That's one of the reasons why it's so valuable. So we need to understand what the quality rating guidelines are, and then use them as guidance to help improve our content. When we are using Google, we should be paying close attention to things like, for example, when it outlines a snippet in their new passage results. Why? What made that snippet so important, that piece of text so important on that page? Can we get a sense of what makes that credible enough to display it as part of the search result? You've probably seen on Google too, when you click through on a result, at least in Chrome, it will highlight the passage of text that is most relevant to your query. Again, this is something that, based on BERT's ability to extract text and understand individual passages and sentences within it, to be able to say, yes, this is important. So when we think about how we write our content, how we create our content, be thinking about, is there something that from a language perspective that you would say, this is like the most important point? How would you write your content to be determined? This is the important passage that belongs here, that if Google highlighted it, it would answer the user's question. And then third, when it comes to interpreting how these models work and how our content works, we need to be thinking about the features of the text and other things we publish. Things around named entity recognition. If you're writing, for example, a post about coffee, right? What are the major expected entities that you would expect to see, named entities in a piece about coffee, right? If you're writing about the history of coffee, Lloyd's of London should be in there because it's an integral part of the history of coffee. And so that demands domain expertise, that demands subject matter expertise. And that, again, is why the BERT algorithm is so powerful, because it can look at the stuff that would be considered credible and see how many named entities are in there, how many certain types of text and prepositions and all these things are used. Our goal as marketers is to create content that looks and reads and sounds like the stuff that will be rated the highest quality in the search quality rating guidelines. So original, in-depth, well-researched, lots of citations, kind of like writing a really good paper, writing a really good article. The good news is that if you actually are good at what you do as a brand or as a company, and you have subject matter expertise and you can put that subject matter expertise on display, the algorithm will naturally tend to favor you as long as you check off a few of the technical things, like the use of proper named entities and things, because it's going to be comparing your content versus what's in the quality rating guidelines, which is the training data set. So as long as you continue to pay attention to that and keep your content up to date with its recommendations, and you write for the humans that will be reading your stuff, you will do well. You will do reasonably well with Google's algorithm. On the other hand, if you create low quality stuff that's thin, that doesn't have any citation, that doesn't look like authoritative, credible content, you won't do well. Right? That's just the nature of the way that the model is going to examine your text. And there's other things that go into that too. We can save that for another time about some of the technical page layouts and things. But at the very least, you want high quality content as governed by what's in the training data set, so that models like BERT, when they look at your page, they look at your content, will be able to compare it side by side with the things that they know are valuable and go, yep, this is valuable too, right? So it's a lot of mimicry in some ways. It's a good question. We could spend a long time on this, but that's a good start. So if you got follow-up questions, leave them in the comments box below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Want help solving your company's data analytics and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.